Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this edition of The Inside. I am Bable Jonathan, and we are coming to you from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. Today, we are zooming in on Egbeko, a neighborhood in Mamfe in the Manyo Division, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. That is the area that recorded one of the most recent atrocities within the context of the more than 6-year-long armed conflict prevailing in the predominantly English-speaking northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. Close to 30 persons killed, several others injured, several homes set ablaze in Egbeko, in Mamfe Central, in the Manyo Division of the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon by armed men. And we're going to analyze, so we are analyzing this latest incident in the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Once more, thank you for joining us today. Our guest is Tayon Elvis, political analyst. Tayon Elvis, welcome to the program.
Thanks very much, Babila Jonathan. It's my pleasure being part of your program today. And I want to send special greetings to all those who will be watching us wherever they are. Once more, I'm pleased to be part of your program today.
You're a journalist and you have been doing some investigations, journalistic investigations on the happenings in the two English-speaking regions of the Republic of Cameroon where atrocities are being recorded, and this has been going on for more than 6 years now. Killings, abduction, destruction of properties, houses burnt down, people maimed. And you've been following up happenings in those two regions. Before we get to focus on one of the most recent atrocities committed in the context of the crisis in Egbeko, in Mamfe, what's your analysis?
Well, I think that if I get it well, it is quite a call for concern. We understand that we are 7 years plus for the crisis. And the question we ask is, how many more persons do we want them to be killed? How many houses do we want them to be burnt down? How many lootings do we want? And so many other atrocities before the issue is put under control. As you rightly mentioned, Babila, it has been a call for concern. And I tell people that there is simply the lack of the political will to bring an end to the ongoing atrocities. I repeat, the lack of the political will. Now, when you have a government, governments have what we call political agenda. And the political agenda of every government is a driving force to other factors within the country, which means the political ideology of a government put in place drives the economic, drives the social, drives the cultural, drives the educational, and every other facet within a given country. The situation with Cameroon and the aspects of the ongoing atrocities is a call for concern. And like you mentioned, the issue of Egbeko in Manyo Division has been a real call for concern. We've had the issue of Ngarbu, we've had the issue of Guzang massacre, we've had the burning of villages in Kwakwa and other like. We've had the issues of Widukum burnings as well.
There's been killings, destruction of properties, burning down of villages by actors from both sides. The separatist fighters on one hand and the soldiers on the other hand, also accused of indiscriminate shooting, killing civilians, burning down of villages. Some of the accusations admitted by the authorities, like the Ngabu massacre. Now, the question here is, has it become a show of strength?
I said a while ago that we are now living on blame game. And if we're doing on blame game, it means we are living now on a show of strength. If you look at it, all of the carnage we record are very controversial. I have been able to carry out, and I'm still on the investigating the Equinoxe incident. And sometimes the government has a point to pick a reaction and pick conclusions. But sometimes too, we have to go deeper. Was there any tribal aspect between the people of Equinoxe and those who came in? What has been the identity of those who came in? Were they Amber boys? Were they people from Nigeria? Who were they? And I think the government has an upper hand to put the cards on the table in terms of that investigation. But as you rightly asked whether it's a show of strength, that's why I said that politically the government has deviated from the solution. When you get an action, the first thing is that government comes up to say it's Amber. Amber comes up to say it's the military in disguise. So the question now is, if government says it is Amber, Amber fighters say it is the government, how does it resurrect the lives of those who have been brutally murdered in cold blood? How does it erect buildings that have been razed down overnight? So at the end, we are in a counterproductive move, I must say so. And that is why, in real terms of political analysis, we say that the aspect of show of strength will no longer and does no longer hold in the current crisis we find ourselves. Because it means that when a village is attacked, groups of persons are killed, the blame game crops up immediately with a show of strength. And the next thing is, you get the same scenario occurring in another locality, which can be called locality X. So the question now is, it becomes a show of strength, that I agree in terms of analysis. But the show of strength becomes a political failure of the regime. Because while we keep getting communique, let's get those to book. Now, supposedly, I've not done investigation to conclude, supposedly it's done by the Amber, for example, and they are holding guns are in the bush. How does the judicial department, get to these Amber boys, if they say it is caused by them, to bring them the book in a military tribunal? We cannot lay hands on them because they are in the bushes. And so, putting up a show of strength in terms of blame game does not bring the culprits to book as per se, nor does it bring to limelight the official persons responsible for the action. And so at the end of it, the show of strength in a guerrilla warfare does not longer hold. Let me take you to the issue of guerrilla warfare. For example, we know that the Americans themselves were at a point in time in Cambodia. There were times in South America where they were involved in a guerrilla warfare. But we realized that who killed who was a blame game. But at the end of it, they had to revive the political strategy, which affected the military strategy by withdrawing troops who were in these areas, because it was a guerrilla warfare where America could not fully conquer the rebels as per se. Now, the same thing as we're talking about, if you look at where we are today, now go to Somalia. You have faction of rebel groups, Janjaweed militiamen, and a host of others who are causing havoc in some African countries. Now, it takes a political will. Political will means that if someone is involved in a guerrilla warfare, where the person has arms already, sometimes sophisticated arms that are equal to what the military has for the time being, it simply means that the political strategy put in place must change. And once it changes, it affects the military strategy. Because I tell you, in a country, the militaries do not take strategies when the political strategies have not been put in place. Because the president's will, they have the willpower of the political power. And once they put the strategy in place, it has a trickling effect on the other facets of the government. It's a show of strength, Babylon, but I think that it's not doing us good neither. Because at the end of it, the show of strength boils down to blame game.
What's your take on the point that the area, Egbeko, where several persons were killed, at least 27, and several homes set ablaze. It's not far from a military base. And when the armed men stormed the area at about 4 a.m. on the 6th of November 2023, there was no immediate reaction from the soldiers. According to the inhabitants of the area, there was no prompt reaction. The soldiers reportedly only came to the scene at dawn.
Well, I will tell you that the call for concern, as I mentioned a while ago, is very serious. As I told you a while ago, that for that kind of carnage to take place, with the burning exercise, which I know from what we gather on the ground, that started at the early hours of that morning, cannot be done within 5 minutes. It will be done within 15, 20, and even 1 hour. And so the worry is, even when at night, Babylon, when you shoot a gun at night, the sound of the gun goes further because they are not interferent sounds showing human activities as you would have it been interfered within the day. So the night that is as quiet as a graveyard tells you that by the time a single shot was fired at that place at the Beko, it's obvious that A or B, who had the sound around that area, supposedly the military, were supposed to have moved to the area immediately. Now, the burning of houses cannot take place within the twinkle of an eye. If we are putting petrol here and lighting, the shooting calls for screaming. It calls for abnormality in that night. And so for it to occur, right up to the extent that the military only came selling after the bucket, is another worrisome aspect. And we ask ourselves, what is the importance of the military bases that we find dotted here and there? The military is out to protect persons and their properties. And because most of the carriages we find takes place hitch-free until the culprits retreat to their bases without the military having a hold or a grip on that particular attack, as we found in Garbu, as we found in the Benin massacre and other line. Sincerely, it is a call for concern. We would not want to be moving to the blame game to say it is military, it is amber. For us, political analysts, we start asking, what is wrong? That is why we think that in a political will, the head of state is supposed to have called the military commanders in a breakout to order. The head of state is supposed to have called them to questioning. That's what I said, taking prompt action. It takes a political will for a prompt action to be put in place. That you summon the commander of the brigade commander in the breakout, you summon the company commander in Manu, and those who are in the other camps around that area, for them to give you a comprehensive report in Yaoundé as to how could this carnage take place. First, in the morning of the celebration of the 41st anniversary of President Bobia, when security was said to have been beefed up around the national territory ahead of this celebration. If it was an ordinary day, we could say probably it took the military unaware. But on a day when we know that elites had moved into Manfi, elites had moved into the various subdivisions ahead of the celebration, it means that patrol teams, security was on the alert. Babylon, how can security be on the alert, yet the perpetrators of these hideous crimes came, carried out the action, and retreated without confrontation with the military? I think that we called on President Paul Biya to do everything humanly possible. If military were sleeping, they should be brought to book for sleeping while that carnage took place. All is that there should be explanations put in place so as to prevent further occurrences of this nature.
Because of the absence of a prompt reaction from the military, there are now allegations of a possible involvement of a militia group reportedly masterminded by some persons in the dark, notably persons who are in power and who are said to be having interest in maintaining the crisis And what do we know about these allegations of the possible involvement of a militia masterminded by some persons in power in such incidents?
Well, I will tell you that the allegations can come as they come. Everyone, we are in a free world. Everyone will accuse militia, the military, some say it is groups from Nigeria and all the like. It's a free world. But what I'm saying is, we could give allegations left to right. But then, the main issue is that we would need the right version of what transpired and who are those who are directly involved in it. That explains why, in my own humble suggestion, the same inquiry that was launched in the Ngarbu massacre should equally be launched in the case of the Beko massacre. It is important because when we live on haphazard informations, live on the blame games, which I have said, the blame games cannot bring an end to the atrocities. It becomes a real call for concern. So what you are saying is what is occurring on the ground. People will say militia supported by this. Others will say it is military in disguise to paint Amber black. Amber will say that it's not them. Military says government officials, of course, we have officials statement from the spokesman of the government, which states clearly that it is Amber boys. So at the end of it, we will be able to take the different versions as they come in, but our worry is that there should be an official inquiry. Why do I say so? Look at the Ngarbu massacre. When it took place, the government spokesperson came out clearly and said it was done by Amber boys. When a commission of inquiry was put in place, under the instruction of the head of state, President Paul Biya, it became the other way around that some security forces were involved in it, and they are currently being put to trial over there in Yaoundé. Now, take a look at the issue at the far north. The brutal murder of the woman carrying a child, which was done in broad daylight. We equally had a government spokesperson at that time who gave a different picture of it, and even defended that those images were coming from Mali. We only realized that when the government decided to move to it, it was later resolved, or was later proven by government's findings that it was done by members of the Cameroon Defense Forces. All of them are not bad. You could have bad seeds among them because the defense forces are doing everything possible within their powers to maintain peace and security, which we must be able to appreciate, whether we like it or not. But then, what we are saying is that there should be an aspect of a political will that should be able to call for responsibility. People must take responsibility, Babylon. We cannot have a kindness of that nature. And we are living on a blame game. We are living on assumptions that probably it was done by militia of this, it was done by this, or some person had hands in it, when we are unable to prove all of that beyond reasonable doubt. It is in this light that I say that a political will put in place will shed more light on the Equinoxe massacre. Take for instance, if President Paul Biya tells you, I need a response to this within 48 hours to get those who are responsible. Responsibility in the Equinoxe massacre means that you might not be the person who carried out the brutal shooting and the burning, but you could equally be charged for negligence. If you were on duty and you allowed that to happen without intervention till broad daylight, before the gendarmes and the military were coming, it means there is an element of security negligence which has to go for an accountability. This is what we call responsibility in terms of governance, and it takes a political will for it to be put in place.
Responsibilities, and it is the responsibility of the state to ensure the security, to ensure the protection of citizens. When things like this happen continuously and women, children, men are killed in this brutal manner, has the state failed in its duties to protect the people?
Yes, as you said rightly, it is normally the duty of the military, the police, the gendarmes, to protect lives and properties. That's their mandate. It's clear and clear. But as I said, the worrisome aspect in the whole issue, which people are refusing to analyze, is the fact that people have not yet taken up their responsibilities as to the Egbeko massacre. As I said a while ago, one thing that is very disturbing, Babila, is the fact that it took place on the day of the celebration of the 31st anniversary of the head of state, President Paul Biya. And I said, whether those who carry out the actions had a message to pass across, we cannot condone with that kind of massacre, whether a message was passed across or not. It is wrong before God and man. But as I said, the main disturbing aspect of Babylon is the fact that security is always built up when CPDM anniversary is coming up. Security is always built up when we are celebrating, when there's the celebration of President Paul Biya's anniversary. Now, as I said earlier, you know very well that when elites move into an area during this crisis, security is built up times 2, which means the multiplying effect of security is built up in the areas concerned. It simply means that in Manfred Town there was security built up. In if you go to a cop, security was built up. You go to the other state divisions within my division, security was equally built up. And that is why we are yet to understand how could this happen. Those who carry out the massacre, as I said earlier, have their reasons and messages passing across, but to use civilians, as we call it, innocent civilians, to kill them in broad daylight in the name of passing a message across, it is where the problem lies. And so at the end of it, if security did not carry out a prompt action until the massacre took place that early morning, only for them to arrive when it was already day dawn, it is a call for concern. I am saying this, they might be angry with me over there in Manfi, but the clean and clear aspect is that we must take our responsibilities. And it takes the political will, I keep saying, by the government in Yaoundé. I got the President Paul Biya, His Excellency President Paul Biya, but equally instructed the governor of the Southwest region, Governor Bilabena, to prompt into the issue. That's a prompt action. And so, we will want to hear results. We will not want to get the several points of inquiry that are always launched, and at the end of it, we don't get any clear cut as to what happens, and as to the veracity of what has transpired. So we think that, in as much as the governor of the Southwest region, Governor Bilabena, has been instructed by the head of state to prompt into it, we will need a prompt action and response, which goes down to responsibilities. If those charged with maintaining peace and order did not react from the very first gunshot of the first person, and you hear "ta" in the night, and in your military base, you do not bother to come out to start pursuing where the gun sound is coming from, and you get a second gunshot, you get a third gunshot, you got the feet, the seat. 25 lives lost does not mean that they were killed with a single bullet. It means that they were killed with spraying of bullets. And I said earlier, you cannot spray bullet in the night, Babylon, in a rural area, because Mafia is a rural setting. If you are in Douala or Yaoundé, there are some bars that operate till morning. So the sound will disturb you from knowing that gunshot was fired. But in a rural area, if you go to Momo Division, you go to Manu, you go to Njian, in the night, any single gunshot can be taken at a far distance. And so, responsibilities need to be accorded to those who failed to put in place necessary measures to abate or to avoid this particular carnage in Egbeko.
Link between the celebration of the 41st anniversary of President Paul Biya's accession to power and the Egbeko massacre, there are questions about the necessity of such an event in the context of the crisis in the two English-speaking regions of the country, considering the fact that such events are potentially risky for the population, have the potential of putting the people at risk. We remember that the crisis began escalating at another speed when some CPDM or some elite of the Northwest region, including particularly members of government and CPDM, bigwigs like Territorial Administration Minister Paul Atanganji, went to Bamenda for the celebration of a CPDM event, and things began escalating there. What's the necessity of going to celebrate the 41st anniversary of President Paul Biya's ascension to power in a situation of conflict, and without taking into consideration the risk of putting the people in those areas in danger?
Well, I would tell you honestly, let me start by saying that the celebration of the 41st anniversary of President Paul Biya staying in power is not bad by those who are celebrating it. I say it's not bad by those who are celebrating it, because to stay at each point in time considered as success to those who are celebrating him, they did not do bad. There was nothing wrong in that. But what is wrong is the context and probably the venue, how it's going, how the venue where it was celebrated, and the messages that went across. I would tell you that analyzing the celebration in the racing areas, it was like a semblance of mockery to the people in the area to send a message to President Paul Biya that all is well in these areas. These elites must be held accountable. These elites must be held accountable for carrying out acts of provocation, for the innocent civilians to pay the price. Just as those who carry out the action must also be held responsible for carrying out murder and unholy acts as such. So, two crimes are involved here. Those who carried out the actions and those who actually carried out acts of provocation. Why do I say so? In the areas you will hear, which I say is their right, to even say President Paul Biya should stay on again into eternity. It is their right. In the CPDM, for example, it's normal. You can celebrate President Paul Biya even the 55th anniversary and say let him stay forever. It is their political ideology. But then, at the level of managing a state, the political measures put in place is what is supposed to be measured in terms of the actions on the ground and the venue where that action will take place. That's why for us, you realize in journalism, they will tell you that if you want to report a station, which is factual, and the station could jeopardize public peace, you are forced not to do that because you can be held liable for carrying out, for propagating public disorder. So, no, you have the facts. But then, putting in place these facts in the context where the station can equally cause more calamity. In that case, their facts are reserved. In the case of the CPDM people and their 41st anniversary, I state clearly, they should not misquote me. Celebrating Paul Biya's anniversary is not a crime. It is their right and duty. Asking President Paul Biya to stay in power forever, it is their right. It is their duty. But then it takes political maturity to know the context under which you carry out this same aspect. Now, come to think of it, if you were in Bamenda, to see that we have problems of roads, the crisis has not been solved, and the elites tell you, we want President Paul Biya to stay on again, you see there's a semblance of what they call provocation there. And you could be surprised that someone holding a gun somewhere could decide to retaliate in another direction, which is wrong. But what has triggered that effect, that action of, say, the Amber Boys or anybody who's holding gun to carry that kind of action, it is because there has been a provocation somewhere, which we are not justifying that. But we are saying that in the governance system, there are actions that when you carry out, you weigh the context, you weigh the environment, and you come to think of it, you could better say that, all right, let us celebrate it in monthly. Let's celebrate it in Wake, which is right, but in low gear. And then this the wordings we use also matters. If we celebrate it by calling for peace, we celebrate it by calling our brothers and sisters to come together as one. It has a way. But then if you want to celebrate it where there are some cheeky statements, or statements that could sound like, when we don't come, when we say we don't come, no fire, we don't come. So these things have a particular effect that could go a long way to jeopardize public peace and order. And that's the more reason why, like you were asking, I will tell you that the timing of the 41st anniversary, when people are still wallowing in pains, economic is not moving. Political wise, people are in prison. Political wise, there are others who have been transferred to the military tribunals in Boya, Bamenda and Yaoundé, charged under terrorism law. Whether they are guilty or not guilty, parents are feeling the pinch. Families are in agony. Then to find this kind of thing resurfacing in the areas could equally justify why the people carry out the action, which is not correct. So we are looking at it, analyzing probably that if we go to celebrate these things in these areas, these celebrations, which is the right of the people to celebrate, but the context of it and the aspects in which they go with it matters. I got to some visits in Malpe before then and after the massacre, when I was asking them a question away from the massacre, and they told me, can you imagine that this part of what we're going through, they are saying that they are still giving motion of support. And I told the person, it is a right of the CPD to do so. But the person told me, they are provoking us. You could see where I'm getting the analysis from. That the things the CPD people and the elites came in, and what they put on the ground might have provoked the carnage be fine, or the fact that they were coming to celebrate might have pushed the government to say, we want to sabotage this particular celebration. But the question is, do you sabotage the occasion by affecting those who are not even involved in the celebration? No. Do you sabotage an occasion or an event by burning houses and all the like? We are advocating for peace. And peace should be our watchword. As I said, the actions we carry, we must be honest to admit that some of us elites have equally triggered this conflict out of proportion. That's the way President Kobe had wanted it to put under control. It means that some of us are arrogant. Some of us, we live with a lot of, I'll call it, we use statements that are not coordinated. And so this is where we are today. But then, the civilians is playing the population. Is that what we are advocating for? No. So a political will must be put in place by a duty, by Yaoundé to say, we want an end to this thing. First, those who are becoming lukewarm, maybe benefiting from the conflict one way or the other, and not taking their responsibilities, must be brought to order by President Paul Biya before they start chasing the gunmen who are surely in the bushes, where they are coming from, but the state will do its investigation proper and should be able to uncover and learn on those who are behind this so that we get the situation put under control and we don't get civilians paying the price day in, day out for a conflict they did not call for it to occur or to come.
Declare that condemnations have been coming in, filling the airwaves, rising to the sky from across the board, for there is no reason that should justify killing, that should justify trampling upon the fundamental right to life. And this is what we are looking at in order to find a way out of the tensions, the issues, the problems in those two regions. And we'll continue with this discussion in a short while. Now I want to go to the newsstands, and we are looking at what the newspapers reported this week in Cameroon. This is the press review. The Guardian Post reports the shock that gripped the nation Cameroon over the barbaric killing In Mamfe, Cameroon Tribune qualifies the Egbeko massacre as an inexplicable cruelty. Municipal update highlights President Biya's condemnation and condolence to the bereaved families. The Guardian Post publisher is arrested over a fake front page suggesting that government had admitted that soldiers carried out the Egbeko massacre. Another issue of the paper says the English language daily newspaper cannot be intimidated. Another issue of Cameroon Tribune sheds light on President Paul Biya at the 41st anniversary of his accession to power. Newswatch reports that followers of the head of state are calling on him to stand for re-election and anticipated elections. According to The Horizon, over 200 Social Democratic Front (SDF) militants decamped to the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM) political party in the Njan division. Thank you for staying with us. Tayon Elvis is still with us. He's a political analyst. Now, let's look at the reaction of the authorities. That be one of the persons who is highly criticized for his silence when such incidents occur, not only in the two English-speaking regions of the country, but in other parts of the country as well. We had recently the landslide that killed several persons in Bankolo, in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. Before that, there were other tragedies of that nature. The train accident in Ezeka, the landslide in Guache, in Bafoussam, and so on. And civil society leaders, political leaders like you are raising concerns about the silence of the head of state, who wouldn't speak as he ought to, or as he's expected to by the people when such incidents happen. A reaction only came from the president, or came from the president of the republic, about the Egbeko massacre about 2 days after the incident, and it came in a telegram to the governor of the Southwest region, Bernard Okalie Bilai. What do you think about this?
Well, I will tell you that as a political analyst, it has been a political blunder. I repeat, a political and governance blunder on the part of our top administrators of this country. Why do I say so? Desperate problems requires desperate solutions. Even if I'm at the verge of a celebration, lives cannot be lost and I respond 48 hours later. It doesn't move like that. But when the Basilica got burnt in France, we got immediate word of condolence from the head of state. Let's look at it this way. Now, we understand the Minister of the Interior Administration was equally in Bamenda as an elite. Now, with the situation that took place, the truth is that the government did not show immediate concern. I spoke with one of the CPDM officials who told me that no, the GO was there on board, the Legion commanders were on board. No, they were on the scene yes, but there are some things that need superior authorities to be on the ground. That's what shows the magnitude and the concern higher authorities have for that particular massacre. I have never said this before. I was expecting even some of the state officials to have taken first available helicopter flight to arrive at the Egbeko that morning by 6 or 7. If you take helicopter from Yaoundé, or you take helicopter, say Mr. Atanga Jipol is in Bamenda, you take a military helicopter in Bamenda, 30 minutes, you are in Mamfe, you are in Egbeko. I said 30 minutes, which means a massacre that took place around 4 a.m., if it's brought to their door, it means that they can be comfortably in Egbeko by 6 a.m. in the morning. To tell you that they are on the ground. But the fact that we are getting messages, first, political party leaders were very prompt. That I should appreciate them. because that's the only thing they can do. They are not in power to have taken available flight to be there. They don't control the military. They don't control organs of the state. And so I got Professor Maurice Kamto, Cabral Ibi, and a host of other political leaders who were prompt to react. That is what we call prompt action that is expected from state authorities. But to tell you that celebration is ongoing, it means that if you want to analyze in clean terms, it means let me finish my celebration. After that, I will then come to attend to you people. That is the simple analysis that goes on in this situation. State machinery grinds slowly, but surely. It is true. But in desperate situations, now look at the Bankolo issue. Now you see how many people died, and the prompt action was that 2 government ministers. We had Madam Kecha was there. We had Frank Bia was there. We had Mr. Takadi who were there. I said in the morning they were on the site. What justifies or explains the fact that a Beko massacre of over 25 persons killed in cold blood? These government officials, even the president of the Republic, President Bobia, could not take available flight to land there in the morning to tell the people, I have come to see this myself. These are the issues here. The reactions from state authorities is what I call administrative and state blunder, because they are giving a semblance as if some persons are more important than the other, which is not so. So I think that the advisors around President Bobia, the technical advisors and the different ministries concerned, were supposed to have done their job by calling on the authorities. You call on Minat boss. Boss, I think that with this issue, let us try to be there to ascertain the thing on the ground yourself. I'm hearing from the SGO, I'm hearing from the divisional sub-divisional officer in the area. Now, this is what gives magnitude, weight to an issue that shows that the state has direct concern on what has happened. We have not been able to get that. Even our governor of the Northwest, Southwest region, was supposed to have taken a immediate flight. The military helicopters are there. The means are there. That if you are in Boya, you take military helicopter before 6 a.m. is a matter of 25 minutes from Boya by helicopter to Ebeko. 25, 30 minutes maximum. Governor, you're already there. We are a time marshal, and we are carrying out the information alongside with the senior division officer of Manu and the other entire marshals of his entourage. But then, we are not getting that semblance. I am putting on the state to do something. Let them be proactive, and in proactive, high government profile officials should mark present when a disaster occurs anywhere in the country, not only in some parts of the country, I said, but everywhere. If the massacre takes place in Akko, Furawa, I think that the powers that even Prime Minister can be dispatched, not for someone to justify that, no, the fact that the GO is there, is presenting the head of state, it means the head of state is there. No! The magnitude of the carnage determines which personality should be present at that point in time. It was administrative and political blunder by the powers that be not to have been there few hours after the incident. Talk less of reacting. Minister Emmanuel Resami, the spokesman of the government, did his own, which was good, by reacting earlier. But reaction and presence are two different things. If he was reacting like that, he was leading a delegation of some government ministers to that area. Probably the Prime Minister present, and why not the head of state? I'm sure that if they were there on the ground, they would be able to go back to a duty. I said, but what we have seen, truly, what those political analysts are saying, they need to carry on another genuine dialogue. Is necessary because what we saw. Because they will have first-hand information on the ground. I'm not saying the GOs are giving them the wrong information or the SGOs, but when a high government profile is present on the scene, the things he gathers as first-hand information are different from when you get corroborated reports that leaves from the area where Igbeko is from, the subdivision, now to Manfe, divisional headquarters, and then to Buya, where the governor is, and then to Yaoundé. No. Desperate problems require desperate solution. And in the case of the Igbeko massacre, the government did not apply desperate solution, so to say.
Of the year of state to the governor of the Southwest region, President Paul Biya condemned or strongly condemned the Igbeko massacre, the killing of civilians and the destruction carried out there, and also asked the governor to reassure the people, to tell the people that all measures have been put in place to identify and track down those who carried out the destruction and the killings and punish them according to the law. Is that assurance reassuring?
Yes, I will tell you it is reassuring, even though the reassurance is not good enough. But it is reassuring. For the fact that sometimes they say it's better late than never. We expected a prompt action on response to the massacre from the head of state, which did not come on time. It came some 48 hours later. Then, instructing the governor of the Southwest region to say into either the issue is under control while tracking down the perpetrators of this heinous crime is reassuring. But the question we're asking is, how fast are we going to get this assurance? Ngarabu came. It was reassuring, but it took a whole process. Some of the children who are orphans of those who were killed, some of those who lost their loved ones, have still been waiting on that prompt action. Now is the situation of Igbeko. So reassuring, yes. But the question is, how fast can that reassurance come in? We'll be happy if we want to hear by tomorrow that those who were after this, who were in this massacre are this and that. But my problem, as I said, Babila, from the head of state, the instruction should not only end at tracking down those who are involved. It should be holistic. Holistic in the sense that those who were equally negligent for this hideous crime, barbaric crime to take place, should also be held responsible. Because if each and everyone were on guard, I am sure we would not have lost the number of persons we lost, the number of houses we destroyed, we would not have had that. So the assurance needs to be above, it needs to go beyond what the head of state has instructed the governor of the Southwest region. All the same, we are putting our fingers crossed, waiting for the aftermath of what President Bobby has instructed, that it should yield fruit is our prayer and our dream. Because those families in Igbeko are in real pains as I speak till now. It's not an issue of a mayor to go to the streets and be playing grammar. No. Where were you when that issue was taking place? With a gunshot, did you call the Legion commander in Manfe that please, I've had this, please can you move immediately? We don't sell after the market because we are looking for popularity. As I saw in one of the videos, whether I think one is former mayor or whosoever, but an official from the council in Manfe who gathered the population and was condemning the act. That is no news. It is no event because that incident would have been prevented. It would have been prevented. So allowing it after it has occurred to gather people and start blowing drama in the air is counterproductive. Let them stay quiet and allow the head of state and the governor of the Southwest region do their job quietly.
All right, let's take some interviews right now, and we'll come back in a short while.
We continue to sue for peace in our land. As far as we are concerned, we continue to preach peace to our people. Our division is a God-fearing division. We are not used to spillage of blood, so we put it in God's own hands to fight our enemies. Amen. And we know God will give us the victory.
It is an order of the Lord a prophetic order that the sons and daughters of Manu should make a march, a prayer march, 7 times to the place. And that if not, the wars shall come. And so we are merely doing this obeisance to the Lord for peace to reign in the land. Let them hand over their lives to Jesus Christ, completely, wholly, and entirely. And the Lord, who is the giver of life and gives the life more abundantly, will make the flow of life flow into the land of Manu.
Recent issues in Bankulu, the killings in Babanki, the killings in Bamenda, killings in Buya, and the recent ones even that just occurred in Manfi, that even coincided with his 41 wasted years in power. We saw a president that was very relaxed in his palace with a wife. On the contrary, Mr. Biya is always very quick, creating solidarity support to issues affecting other countries, especially Europe. Mr. Biya has never had any interest of Cambodians at heart. There are instances where head of state cancel their visits just because a single citizen is caught up with a situation, an unfortunate situation. They have to address it. But in our country, you see more than 25 people massacred in Manfi. President Biya rather took all his time and was celebrating his 41 wasted years of rulership in Cameroon with a wife. That is the height of provocation and wickedness.
We are crushed. We are feeling that pain. We are standing with the people of Manfi, and we are looking at the situation gradually, and we are believing that those who do that act, we condemn the act in strong terms.
These acts are barbaric. These acts are heinous. These acts are unacceptable, whatsoever be the motive, because of the laxity of the way the government of Cameroon is going to solve the problem. And we all know very well that the military option taken by the government of Cameroon to address this issue has failed completely.
If it's true that His Excellency President Paul Biya wants to precipitate the elections, then there must be a very good reason for that to happen. The nation is going through a lot of trouble and a lot of hiccups, and I guess he wants to renew, he wants to renew that presidential seat and a couple of other things to give him and to give the nation the leverage to be able to address some of the problems, especially given that there is it looks like there's a lot of infighting and a lot of fight as far as that presidential seat is concerned.
You're welcome back. You're welcome back, Tayo, Elvis. We are wrapping up this edition of The Inside. I wanted to react on a statement made by the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, in the official telegram that he sent to the governor of the Southwest region, Benau Kalibilai. The head of state said that the unity and stability of the nation constitute her most important asset, and any attempt to sow the seed of insecurity has always failed. What is your opinion about this?
Well, I think that message, telegram from President Paul Biya, sending it to the governor of the Southwest region, Governor Okala Bilabena, is a square peg in a square hole, in that President Paul Biya was simply doing his job. And the job has to do with guaranteeing peace and security of persons and properties, amongst other obligations he has to do. And so, putting in place that particular communique is to let you know that he will not condone anyone who wants to jeopardize the peace of the country, talk less of destruction of persons and their properties, which is very correct. And so, if you look at it critically, we would be analyzing it the other way around, that while the statement is correct and has to go, our next worry is whether will all these go a long way to produce the desired fruit by his subordinates. Subordinates simply means that, with state governance is a whole administrative machine, it's a whole machinery. And so you have a story of the government of the Southwest region. Our plea, just like the wish of each and everyone, is that when we react on this, the governor should be able to have a triggering effect in that his subordinates should be able to adhere to this. But then, I will tell you that while the statement is going, it fell short a little bit of the fact that it was supposed to have added an aspect of in-depth punishment that awaits those who could be equally charged with the aspect of negligence in that particular incident. Because those who are responsible, according to the statement, they have to be tracked down. It is our wish, because nobody born of a woman would tell you that that massacre did not touch he or she. It is a sacrilege, manslaughter of the first order. But as per what the head of state said, it is our wish that it goes a long way for us to see the things changing, because we will not be living on statements only. We should be going with statements, we matching with actions. And I know that if the real political will is there, I tell you, within a few days from now, you will see things responding to the action and the letter put in place by President Paul Biya. But the question now is, while those who are under President Paul Biya come right down to the grassroots as military officials, do they have what it takes to respect this particular order? It is a question. It seems like, as I'm telling you, that if I take a case like an instruction comes in from the NAT, and they tell you, okay, let's get to the cancellation of the creation of the village, maybe in Bengu, like the case of Nja and Tugi, and at the end of it, you still see that somebody was put in place overnight. You ask yourself, then, who is the boss here? That's why we're saying that when orders come like this, the orders should be able to be implemented. If they are implemented, then it will be a good thing. But I think that while analyzing President Paul Biya's statement that he sent to the governor, he should also put in place a mechanism to punish those who refuse to follow this decision. And that is what it means by enforcing a governmental decision. That when you say it is one thing, the next thing is that those who are supposed to implement, they should be aware that failure to implement as required by the head of state will attract punishment. Once this scenario is put in place, I tell you, any communique that comes from President Paul Biya, you will see it be implemented on the ground. If not, we will be dancing to the gallery and yet expecting another Equinoxe to happen somewhere, somehow, which is not our wish, because at the end of it, all lives matter. Whether it is military, whether it is civilian, why is that of the single administrator? Babila, that's why I said earlier, what the head of state has done by instructing the governor is a good thing. But I said it is not good enough, because this action warranted President Paul Biya to be present in Equinoxe. I'm going to call prompt action from the head of state. I mean, present physically. If he was present physically, it will not take long, because in law, they say justice delayed is justice denied. If President Paul Biya had taken himself to be present there, with the governor of the South Sudan and other ministers, the information he will gather, I tell you, if he returns to Yaoundé, within 48 hours, you will begin to see the solution to this crisis coming to an end. But being at a Trojan horse and only giving instructions, it becomes worrisome, because it might not be respected from the presidency right down to the grassroots for the positive effect to yield fruits as expected.
All lives matter, and that's why we've been asking this question again and again, and we'll continue asking until the northwest and southwest regions of the country are taken out of the troubled waters in which it finds itself today. Now the question is, what should be done now to stop all these atrocities, to restore peace and normalcy in those crisis-stricken regions? What should be done now?
Well, the things that should be done are simple. I have repeated these things for 7 years running, and it looks like I'm still singing the song. But I think that as a patriotic Cameroonian, let me keep singing the song. Someday, the powers that be might decide to consider the song from maybe the foolish Cameroonian. What is supposed to be done is simple. We would say that if we put in place the major principles of conflict resolution, which has to do with putting in place a genuine dialogue. I'm not talking about cosmetic. I mean a genuine dialogue. It means another dialogue is urgently needed. I repeat, urgently needed. If we want to reduce souls going. I will tell you, Babila, what I'm saying so. I got a viral video on social media on a military officer who was being pushed in a truck somewhere in the Blue Division. That is a man who has family. That is a man who is surely married. That's a man who has children. Apart from the other ones who hear explosive have killed a military officer here and there, or a military officer has killed a civilian all the night. These are not healthy. These things are not healthy for us. How long do we play to the gallery for many lives to be lost? Houses to be burnt? No. So, if a genuine dialogue is called up, I said urgent. That is what I'm calling on the head of state. Head of state should no longer hear from what the close collaborators are telling him, because what they told him and what is being implemented is not yielding fruits. It means somewhere somebody does not apply the right formula to the head of state. It simply means that a genuine dialogue that will call for immediate release of all political prisoners, unconditional release of political prisoners, unconditional release of secessionist leaders. Once this is done, the tension of the atmosphere is brought low, and then they engage in what do we do? Let stakeholders for the genuine dialogue be contacted, not those who are fighting for their stomach. No. I will tell you, I'll be happy if I hear that President Bobia has called Ayabacho. If we call it Ayabacho Lucas, it will be a good thing. To hear that President Bobia has called for all of the leaders of the separatist camp to say, are we meeting in Canada? Are we meeting in any way? Because the principle of neutrality in conflict resolution counts. Because if you call me in your house, the fear is that you can end up molesting me because I'll be afraid to talk in your house. So, if this platform are put in place, Babila, we have wasted money sending people abroad in the name of going to meet leader A in South Africa, leader B in London, leader B in America. No. The guys just went there, turned around, pocketed their monies, came and gave a different grammar. The time for grammar brain is over. So, but if we think that a good platform is put in place, I personally can help the head of state as I speak here. If you call me, what can we do? I can give you the cards on the table. And you start calling the people wherever they are, because the state has intelligence what it takes to know who is involved in which camp. And they bring them to a neutral ground. I will tell you that before you know it, with the unconditional release of those who are being custody in the various jail, I will tell you, tension will begin to die down. And let me tell you, Babita, one of the things we must understand in bringing an end to this is that the head of state should begin punishing those who bring wrong information to him. You cannot be in a place that is hot like fire and you tell the head of state everything is under control. All those elites who deceive the head of state by telling him that everything is under control, should be brought to book. I said all the elites, all. Because if they were to tell the head of state, as I'm telling you, that son excellence, vraiment, ça ne va pas. Il faut qu'on résout ce problème-ci comme ça. But now, this is the 41st anniversary. Everyone is dancing. They're drinking their champagne. And at the end, now, head of state, everything is well. It's under control. The people of the Northwest region say, the people of the Southwest region say, the people of Mani division say, the people of Nzeri division say, the people of Bobo division say, no. You don't constitute a minor caucus and you give your statement to the head of state on behalf of the people. No. There should be another mechanism put in place by President Pobia. If he does so, President Pobia will thank me later for uncovering or unmasking those who have been feeding him with the wrong information and making the conflict gets to where it is today, people should be held responsible. If there was an MP in an area where people were killed, and the MP did not give the exact situation of security challenges in that area, the powers that be, the MP should be brought to book, the inspector should be brought to book, the mayor should be brought to book. No one is above the law. And if we put all of this in place, I tell you, you will begin to see how people will be smiling. And at the end of it, the aspect of compensating people who have lost their life, lost businesses, should be in the plan. Babila, if head of state says, imagine, I tell you, mayors are wicked in some of these areas. How do you go to see the shop of somebody who is afraid of the unknown on Monday, and you are moving with military officials, and you see the shops, on Tuesday, he's coming to pay 50,000 francs to unseal his shop. And you, the mayor, know very well that the problem cannot be solved at the level. The problem can be solved only when the head of state tells us to do this. And you decide to put misery to business process in your area by sealing their shops, because the next day, they will come to the council in their numbers and pay millions for their shops to be unsealed. After 2-3 weeks, you come back and seal again. You now raise money out of the suffering of the people. Is that serious? Is that what
we have come to the end of this edition of The Insight. But before we go, very quickly, let me get your opinion about the continuous calls from administrative authorities asking the people to denounce those involved in cessationist activities, to denounce, and even I heard the minister delegate to the Minister of Justice saying on state media that the population should even take pictures and send to the authorities of the people suspected to be separatists or involved in separatist activities. What do you think about these calls, and especially taking into consideration the fact that some have been identified over the past years as blacklegs, as people collaborating with the military and killed?
I will tell you, it's a counterproductive measure. A fat, large, counterproductive measure. In that, 7 years running, it is not you, the government official, to come and educate Cameroonians on what to do. Because we have lived the pains of the crisis. When I see politicians, they go on air, some go meetings, and they are doing grammar that they should denounce. How do you want the population to denounce? Somebody is going to go. You are not holding a gun. Suppose Babylon, I come to the street of Bamenda and stand and say, separatists, no to you. I'm not holding a gun. If they come after me and my head is chopped off, will you be able as a government official to pay for, to bring me back to life? No. Suppose I go to Equinoxe and I'm saying special launch anti-campaign against separatists. The question is, am I safe? Let's be factual. Those who put up these statements as counterproductive as they are those who have refused to understand the reality. All lives matter. But as you are like that, you cannot just go to Bali and start blowing grammar the way you want to blow. Because even the security officials who operate in Bali, they themselves operate with a lot of caution. If a man holding gun does not go to Ikoda anyhow, he does not go to Munyenge anyhow, he does not go to Equinoxe anyhow, you expect a civilian to stand and say he's denouncing. Sometimes people put their brains under their legs and blow empty grammar. This is how people have endangered the lives of some innocent civilians who took the bull by the horn, and the next time they were the dragnets of gunmen, the next time they were killed and all the like. I think that we are leaving the object and chasing the shadow. And that's what has brought us 7 years running in agony in the name of crisis. So, all those kind of statements, as the way I understand it, they are in their comfortable zone. They have their security officials guarding them.
All right, thank you so much, Tayo Evis, a political analyst. Thank you for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this edition of The Insight. Watch the rebroadcast of this program on Friday at 5 p.m. watch the rebroadcast of this program on Friday at 5 p.m. And of course, you can also follow us on our YouTube channel and on Facebook.